You are freezing. The rain stopped, but every stick in the forest is a soaked sponge. Your hands are shaking as you spot a pile of trash in the corner of an abandoned shed. A piece of green tinted lumber, a chunk of styrofoam, a plastic jug. You toss them into the struggling flame and the fire finally catches. The heat hits your face, then the smoke hits your lungs, and the invisible gas filling your shelter doesn't just make you cough. It permanently blinds your nervous system, or drops you dead before the fire even finishes burning. The survival maxim, if it burns, it's fuel, is a lethal oversimplification whispered by people who never had to breathe the aftermath. Subscribe so you never miss this. Stay for number 9. The one item you can't even touch with bare hands, and burning it turns the rash from an annoyance into a full body systemic reaction from the inside out. Item 1. Pressure treated lumber. The deck board, the fence post, the landscaping timber with that faint greenish tint. It looks like wood, it cuts like wood, but it is saturated with chromated copper arsenate or alkaline copper quaternary, chemical preservatives that have protected that lumber from rot and insects for decades. When you burn it, the arsenic and hexavalent chromium don't stay locked in the ash, they vaporize and enter the smoke. You inhale arsenic, a heavy metal carcinogen that settles in your lungs. The hexavalent chromium, the same industrial chemical made famous by Aaron Brockovich, enters your respiratory tract and raises your risk of lung cancer with every exposure. The ash left behind is toxic to handle. If you cook over that fire, the food absorbs the metals. Most people see a pile of scrap lumber and think free fuel. You will see the green tint and back away. Pressure-treated wood is not firewood. It is a hazardous waste incinerator burning in your campsite. Item 2. PVC pipe or vinyl siding. That white plastic pipe in the plumbing debris, the siding ripped off an abandoned house. It is polyvinyl chloride, PVC. It catches fire reluctantly, but when it does, it releases hydrogen chloride gas. That gas mixes with the moisture in your eyes, your throat, and your lungs to form hydrochloric acid. You are breathing acid. The fire also creates dioxins, a family of persistent organic pollutants, so toxic that a few parts per billion in the environment cause cancer and reproductive damage for decades. The black, oily smoke from burning vinyl is a cocktail of chemical warfare agents born in a construction material. Most people see plastic and think it burns hot. You will see a molecular structure with a chlorine backbone designed for plumbing, not for lung tissue. Do not burn it. The warmth is not worth breathing acid. Item 3. Styrofoam and polystyrene, that white foam block, the foam plate, the packing material. It is polystyrene. It burns fast and hot, shrinking from the flame into a bubbling, oily puddle. The smoke is thick, black, and dense, full of styrene gas. Styrene is a potential neurotoxin and a severe respiratory irritant. It coats your throat and your nasal passages in a sticky chemical film that triggers coughing fits. A single chunk of styrofoam creates a smoke column so dark and heavy it becomes a visible beacon to everyone within miles, while simultaneously filling your lungs with toxic particulates. Most people see a lightweight, easy igniting material and think it's a perfect fire starter. You will see a neurotoxic signal flare. The flame is bright, but the smoke steals your breath and your cover simultaneously. Item 4. Particle board, OSB, and plywood. You find a stack of broken shelving in the Imbre's abandoned shed. Particle board, oriented strand board, plywood with visible layers. It looks like wood. It burns like wood. It is not wood. It is sawdust and wood chips bound together with urea, formaldehyde, and phenyl formaldehyde glues. When those glues hit high temperature, they off-gas formaldehyde gas, a colorless carcinogen that triggers immediate asthma-like wheezing and long-term lung scarring. They also release isocyanates, the same chemicals that cause industrial occupational asthma in factory workers. In a poorly ventilated shelter, these gases don't rise away. They pool at breathing level. Most people see engineered lumber and think free fuel. You will see a chemical matrix designed for furniture, not for fire. The glue that holds the board together becomes a respiratory cocktail when it burns. The ash from this fire is toxic to touch. Do not cook over it. Do not sleep in a shelter with it. Do not mistake a shelf for firewood. The difference is invisible until you are coughing up mucus laced with formaldehyde residue. Item 5. Rubber tires. A tire fire in a survival scenario is not a fire. It is a petrochemical meltdown. Rubber tires are vulcanized with sulfur and filled with carbon black styrene butadiene compounds and plasticizers. When a tire ignites, it does not burn clean. It melts into a hot, oily, flowing liquid that releases a thick black smoke column visible for miles. That smoke is full of sulfur dioxide, benzene, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Every single one of these is a known human carcinogen. The smoke is so dense it coats your throat in an oily film. The fire itself is almost impossible to extinguish with water. It burns down into the soil and reignites hours later. Most people see a tire and think long-burning fuel. A tire fire will attract every person within 10 miles to your camp. The smoke column is a beacon for hostiles, and a lungful is a dose of cancer-causing agents. You cannot uninhale. If you need a dense, slow-burning source of heat, find dry wood. A tire is not fuel. It is an environmental disaster waiting inside a rubber ring. Item 6. Household batteries. Lithium and alkaline in a wet, cold environment. You might think to toss dead batteries into a fire to destroy them or just get rid of them. Do not. Alkaline batteries contain potassium hydroxide, a strong caustic lye. When heated, the battery case ruptures and vents a mist of this chemical into the air around the fire. Potassium hydroxide burns the eyes, the skin, and the moist tissue of your lungs. Lithium batteries are a magnitude worse. A lithium cell thrown into a fire instantly enters thermal runaway. The internal separator melts. The electrolyte ignites. The battery spits molten lithium metal and hydrogen fluoride gas, a lung-scarring vapor that water cannot scrub. The fire pops and sprays burning metal fragments onto your clothing, your shelter, and your skin. Most people see a dead battery as trash. You will see a pressure vessel filled with a chemical reaction, waiting for heat to trigger its final, violent output. Batteries are not fuel. They are sealed chemical reactors. The fire does not destroy them safely. It unleashes them directly into your breathing zone. Item 7. Aerosol cans, even the empty ones. You find a rusted can of spray paint, a dead can of WD-40, a beaten-up can of cooking spray. They rattle empty in your hand, but they are not empty. Every aerosol can retain residual pressure and a small amount of liquid propellant, usually butane, propane, or a volatile hydrocarbon blend. That invisible gas sits in the can, waiting. When you toss the can into a fire, the heat vaporizes the remaining liquid. The internal pressure skyrockets past the burst point of the steel shell. The can detonates. The metal peels open into jagged shrapnel that flies outward at ballistic speed. The propellant and the residual chemical contents ignite into a flash fire that rolls through your shelter. The chemical itself, paint solvents, lubricant oils, cooking spray, releases its own specific toxic fume when it burns. Most people shake an empty can and hear nothing, thinking it's safe. You will see a pressure vessel with a heat-sensitive payload. One aerosol can in a fire is a fragmentation grenade with a flammable gas cloud attached. Item 8. Poison ivy, oak, and sumac. The vines grow thick on the dead tree. They burn well. They are dry and fibrous. But the urushiol oil inside poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac does not break down in an ordinary fire. It vaporizes. The oil molecule rises with the smoke and enters your lungs, your eyes, your nasal passages, every moist mucosal surface you have. This triggers a systemic urushiol reaction from the inside out. The rash is no longer on your arm. It is in your throat. It is in your bronchial tubes. Your airway swells and begins to close in an anaphylactic response that no antihistamine in a survival kit can reverse. Most people look at a hairy vine on a tree and see fuel. You will stop and identify the vine before you even touch it, let alone burn it. A rash on the skin heals. A rash in the lungs kills without a ventilator. Item 9. Synthetic fabrics. Nylon, polyester, acrylic. Your sleeping bag is frozen. The tent is shredded. That old fleece jacket is a ragged mess. They burn, don't they? They don't. They melt. Synthetic fabrics are petroleum-based polymers. Nylon, polyester, acrylic, spandex, they don't combust like cotton or wool. They shrink from the flame, then drip. The dripping plastic is molten and sticky, clinging to skin and burning deeper with every second. The smoke they produce is hydrogen cyanide gas, the same chemical used in gas chambers. Hydrogen cyanide binds to your cytochrome oxidase enzyme, halting cellular respiration. Your cells suffocate even as you breathe. A single burning sleeping bag in a shelter releases enough cyanide-laced smoke to kill well before the flames spread. Most people toss old clothes on a fire without thinking about the fabric content. You will check every piece of cloth before it hits the flame. Synthetics melt and hiss, and drip death. Here is the reality that the desperate cold will try to erase from your mind. A fire is not just a source of heat, it is a chemical reactor, and you are standing in the exhaust plume. Pressure-treated lumber releases arsenic. PVC pipe creates hydrochloric acid in your lungs. Styrofoam pours out styrene gas. Particle board off gases formaldehyde. A rubber tire pumps carcinogenic benzene. Household batteries explode and vent caustic lye or molten lithium. An empty aerosol can become a fragmentation grenade. Poison ivy smoke puts the rash inside your throat, and synthetic fabrics melt into hydrogen cyanide. These are not rare industrial hazards. They are the common trash of an abandoned shed, a suburban garage, a roadside dump. Most people will shiver, see a pile of green-tinted wood and old sneakers, and light it in desperation. You will stop. You will look at the material before it hits the flame. You will ask the question that the freezing body does not want to answer. Will this fuel poison me before the warmth ever saves me? Now, drop a comment and tell me this. Look around your garage, your shed, or your campsite. How many of these 9 items are sitting within 50 feet of your bed right now? Write the number. Then go move them away from the fire pit. And in the next video, we are building the opposite of a toxic fire. How to start a fire with nothing but a dead lighter and a single cotton ball. I'll see you there.